Welcome to Sip That Coffee, where casual conversations flow and real talk happens. We keep it real, diving into authenticity, growth, and all the unpredictable moments life throws our way. Whether you're here for thought-provoking chats, a little encouragement, or just some good company, grab your coffee or whatever it is that keeps you going, and let's get into it. Hi, everybody. It's hard to believe another week has gone by, and here I am flying solo for episode 7, and yet I don't even know what to talk about. Don't ask me what this topic is supposed to be. I don't even know if I'll think of anything. I have tried recording this multiple times and starting it, and then nothing sounds right. So I don't even want to ramble, but I'm going to end up rambling over whatever it is that I'm rambling on. Does anybody else feel like they're all over the place? Like 50,000 different things running through their mind and you're trying to keep up with it all? And transitions, let me tell you, transitions when something new starts is interesting. And I have started like 5 new things within a month. I'm not complaining though, because the majority of those things are things that I've been praying for like the longest time. And now they're showing up. So no complaints allowed, because you know what? We kind of can do that. We'll complain about something and it's not happening and we want it to happen and we keep complaining. And then when we get it, we continue the complaining. Why do we do that? It's crazy. So I'm very careful to make sure that I'm not actually complaining. But adjusting to everything has been fun, to say the least. But I'm happy in the transitioning. Yeah. I feel like I'm missing some things. I feel like I'm forgetting some things. I'm trying to keep lists. And as somebody who feels like making a list is an extra task, that says a lot. But if I don't, I will forget something. Needless to say. Take a deep breath. And let's see where this episode's gonna go. I feel like I'm on a Ferris wheel. Not a Ferris wheel. Maybe it's not. Merry-go-round. So you can't even get those words right. Oh, this is what my mind does sometimes. Sometimes I'm on point and sometimes I got it and sometimes I don't. And I'm sorry if you are watching this podcast and you're one of those people who have it all together. This podcast is not for you. This podcast is chaotic. I try to curate as much as I can, but honestly, that doesn't always happen. And life is like that too. We can plan all we want to get those things in place and have A, B, C, and D lined up, and all of a sudden Z jumps in and thinks he's going to take over. And then it usually does. And then you're, rambling and you're scrambling, trying to get everything figured out. So yeah, welcome to life. Welcome to my life. And sometimes caffeine makes it better, especially coffee. But I had that at like 10 o'clock this morning, and that's all I've had. So that's already worn off. So now I'm kind of like working with fumes. So I need some flames lit if I'm going to figure out what I'm even talking to you guys about. But I know you know how I feel. So I know you're listening and watching. And so I know you can relate to the chaos. And it's in this moment that I kind of want to represent what that is, which is go with the flow. You don't have to have everything figured out to make it happen. If I tried to make all of this perfect, it wouldn't be me and it would be scripted and you wouldn't get the genuine side of me. So most of the time, these episodes have been off the top of my head. They've not been set down with a whole script to follow because I can't do scripts. I will stumble over my words the whole entire time. So I can promise you, when you're watching this, you're going to get the real me. And that may vary from episode to episode. Tell you the truth. So, yeah. This should get interesting. Because now I don't even know where to go from here. So hang on for the roller coaster ride. But I believe, I didn't used to feel this way, but I believe perfectionism is a waste of time. It's a waste of energy. Yes, there are certain things that have to be put into place depending on the circumstance. Like there's some things I'm helping somebody with right now, and there's systems that they have to be put in place to make life a little bit easier and a little less chaotic. However, most of the time, you have to learn to swing by the seat of your pants and not expect everything to be absolutely right to get going. I used to sit around and try to get it all lined up perfect, like I could see the big picture, and I'd get all these plans and get it all figured out, get it all on paper, but then I never moved forward with it. Like, what good did that do? That didn't get me anywhere. And that's how I have felt with starting this podcast. Like, I wanted to do this podcast so bad. And part of me was like, oh, I have to know this and I have to figure that out and know all these things ahead of time for it to be successful. But at what point do you stop and actually just jump in? And there's certain, I's that you have to dot and T's that you have to cross in this sort of situation, or a business, for example. But if you never just jump in, you're never going to know what it can do. And success sometimes comes in the strangest ways, and you learn as you go and you make adjustments as you go. And life is like that all the time. We don't know what tomorrow is going to hold. We don't even know what the next 5 minutes is going to hold. And so I think a lot of times that's why I tell people, do what you can with what is right in front of you at the moment. You don't have the answers to everything. That's impossible. We're not made that way. We're not given all of that information. And sometimes we're given information in advance that can benefit us, but a lot of times we don't have those answers. And so taking that one step right now is very beneficial. And procrastination, let's talk about that. Like, what are you waiting for? Like, why are you wasting time? Does that make sense? Like, I hear people often talk about, oh, I just don't have time to do this. And I don't think I can accomplish that because I've got all of these things going on. You can do whatever you want to do. Like, how are you prioritizing your time? Like, are you doom scrolling on TikTok or any other social media? Time yourself next time. Go look at each of those apps that you're on and see how much time you spend on them. There's things in your settings that you can look that up with. And so how much time are you wasting doing that? How much time are you spending on just binge watching television? And I'm careful. Let me backtrack again. I always give you guys these things. I will say I am not judging anyone who watches television or is on, scroll social media. That's not a judgment. But what I'm saying are for the individuals who will make the statement, I don't have time. Evaluate how you're spending your time. Then if you can do that and say, okay, I don't have this moment for this, what can you adjust? You can likely find something that you can adjust. And if you sincerely don't have time to make a change, that's rare, because most of the time there's even 30 minutes somewhere in your day that you can focus on that one project that you're wanting to accomplish, even if it's just 30 minutes a day. Guarantee you can find 30 minutes. What happens a lot of times is we think we need these big blocks of time, this big window of time in order to accomplish something. The big windows of time basically just kind of get it done a little bit faster, but you don't need that to accomplish everything. Like, breaking it down into smaller steps will get you somewhere, even if it's 30 minutes a day, even if it's 30 minutes 3 times a week. Something is better than nothing. And I'm preaching to myself a lot of times, because this is something that used to keep me from accomplishing things. And lately I've been put into a position that I don't have a choice but to stay on top of what I'm doing with my time. I have to plan my time out. I have to plan my days out. I couldn't do the things that I'm doing if I wasn't. I take on a lot of things. I'm getting ready to possibly take on a couple of other things. And so this is where we all get to decide what we want to take on, what we do with our time. But what we don't get to do is say, I don't have time. And the only aspect that you could apply that I don't have time is you don't have time to waste, which means choose wisely what you're doing with your time and decide what's important to you and what your priorities are, and focus on those priorities. Stop getting distracted. And distractions are so easy to get caught up in. I can kind of be guilty of that as well. Like, I still find, there's time that I'm playing Monopoly Go. Guilty. I'm being honest. Like I said, this podcast is about genuine and truth and me proving to everybody that I'm right there with you. Like, this is not something that I'm sitting here saying that I've got it all figured out, but I know what to do and where to go and how to make things happen by evaluating myself. And distractions are so easy to get caught up in. And know the difference between distractions and the things that you do to rest, because rest is important in all of this as well. You don't want to be so caught up in trying to make everything happen that you wear yourself thin. And so those are the times where you have to stop and make sure that you're taking time out for yourself. And whether that's just sitting outside and enjoying the weather, or maybe there's a hobby that you enjoy, or just, riding in the car with the windows down, listening to the music, whatever it is that refuels your soul and your body, make sure you take time for that. And I know a lot of people aren't doing that, which is why you're falling apart, which is why there's so much aggravation and why you feel like you don't have time. And sometimes you have to step back from everything for a moment and regroup yourself to figure out what it is that you want to focus on. And I spent a lot of time in the past, like, jumbled up between 50,000 different things, thinking this is what I wanted to do. And, oh, that got boring, so try to do this over here, and that didn't work. And when you try to do too many things at one time, something gets neglected. And if you know a direction that you want to go, then that's the direction that you need to focus on. If you don't have direction yet, spend some time with yourself to figure out what that is. And you'll get an answer. Sometimes it takes a while. I don't want to use the word isolate because I think that's a really bad word. But if you separate yourself for a moment from all of the busyness in your day to day and just take a moment to take a breath and just sit in a quiet space and allow your mind to think about what it is that you're wanting to do and which direction you're wanting to go. And you can do the same thing if you're trying to find an answer to something that maybe you don't know if that's what you want to do and the decision that you want to make. And the noise that gets all up in our minds from everything that's going on around us, and like I mentioned in the last episode, clutters our vision. And all of these things kind of stack and you're stuck. You get bogged down. It's like quicksand. You think you're on solid ground and the next thing you know, you're getting sucked under. And I think it's very important to stop wiggling. The trick to not get sucked up by quicksand is to not move, is to sit still for a moment instead of fighting your way out, and then use strategic moves to get out. And so it's the same thing when all of this is going on around you. The more you struggle, the more you fight against it, the harder that it gets. And so just sitting still for a moment oftentimes will redirect your mind and redirect your thoughts and redirect your actions. And I've experienced that quite often, and I have to remind myself of that often as well when I get into that position. And sitting in a place where you feel like you're being buried by everything around you, it is very critical to just like stop for a moment and not try to find the answer, not try to take on something else, not try to make a change. Because sometimes in the middle of the chaos, when you're trying to make the change, it's just adding to more of the things that are going to bury you, or you're going to feel like you're being buried even more. It's kind of like you can't get a grasp on what you need to get a grasp on. And sometimes that very thing that is going to pull you out is right in front of you, but you can't see it because you're just so overwhelmed with everything. And I talk about this a lot because it's so critical for your mental health. And if you find yourself being buried and bogged down by everything, step back for a moment. find someone that you can even talk to, that maybe you can release some of that and say, hey, you know, I'm feeling absolutely overwhelmed by all of this. And sometimes an outside person can help you sort through all of those things that are going on and kind of give you a little bit of a guidance in direction. And it's easy for me to say this, not because it's an easy thing to get through, but because I've been there multiple times and I understand the idea of just complete chaos. And a lot of my chaos, unfortunately, in the past had a lot to do with other people. It wasn't even anything that I was or wasn't doing. And that's the worst kind of chaos to get thrown into, when other people's decisions and choices and actions affect you personally. And that's where boundaries come in. That is another huge part of taking action to move forward, is setting boundaries that need to be set, removing yourself from situations or from people that are not helping you move forward. And that is a strong word. It's a strong piece of advice. And it's one of the hardest things to do, but it is very, very critical. And you can set boundaries and still interact with that person, as long as they're not continuing to drag you backwards. Sometimes you just have to literally cut people off, unfortunately. I don't necessarily recommend that, first off, because I do believe, and this is my personal conviction, there again, not judging anybody, I do believe that as someone who follows what Jesus taught, that there is a certain degree to which we do have an obligation to still be kind and show love towards someone. But there's a difference between that and a full-on relationship and fellowship and connection with somebody. So, like, I can love somebody and show them kindness and still serve them if there's a need, but I don't have to allow them access to me on a deep personal level. That's where that boundary has to be set, and especially if it's somebody who is only point in their life is to some reason like bring you down, or if they're just continuing to make bad decisions in their own life that's personally affecting you. You've got to get away from that. Having come out of an abusive marriage slash relationship, long story there, mentally, some physically, definitely emotionally abusive, that was one of the hardest boundaries for me to set. And but I had to, because it was literally killing me. I had health issues because of it, and I still have lingering and lasting issues because of the things that I went through. A lot of it's healed, a lot of it's minor now compared to what it used to be, but I have learned to recognize that that's where a lot of that came from. And thankfully, I've been carried out of that, and I was able to decide finally to just end it and not allow it to continue to happen. It was very, very hard for me to do, because I am somebody who's very loyal and very committed, but you can't commit to something that's causing so much pain that you can't live. And I'm not somebody who encourages, divorce by any means. I think that people need to try to work that out as much as they can, and they possibly can. But as someone who has experienced what I have, and who has had friends that have experienced a lot of the similar situation, and they had to leave as well. And so sometimes there are circumstances where that is necessary. And I encourage especially women within Christianity, and especially those types of situations where you feel like you're obligated because of your personal convictions about marriage. And so other people around you are judging you and say you need to stay, you need to wait. I'm going to give you a word right now that I feel like you need to hear. And I say it carefully, but God does not expect you to stay where someone, your husband, is not loving you like Christ loved the church, as the way scripture commands him to do. Nowhere is there any scripture that says you have to stay in that type of situation. And I'm only throwing that out there because for some reason I always get these little random tidbits in the middle of my podcast to hopefully reach somebody because I stayed for entirely too long. Those were boundaries that I did not set because of what I had been raised to believe, and it's not true. So if that's happening, I find the courage to step away from that, find the way. And you talk to God about that and you have that conversation with him, and don't worry what other people are going to think. And that goes for any boundaries that anybody is setting. Stop being a people pleaser. That is another area that's so hard to quit as a former and a recovery people pleaser. But you know what? Once you do it, it starts to get a little bit easier because you realize that it doesn't matter which way you go. There's going to be somebody that's not going to like what you're doing. There's always going to be someone who has something to say about the decisions that you make. And if you feel like that you have to do things a certain way for somebody to stay, then they don't belong in your life in the first place. And that is something that I have learned the absolute hardest way possible. And guess what? If they don't stay, they don't belong there anyways. Because a person who belongs in your life will remain. Careful, because I did just say set boundaries for people who are toxic and bad and manipulative. So if you have people leaving, just make sure you're not one of those. if people are constantly leaving you, check yourself to make sure you're not the one that's the toxic, abusive, manipulative person. And of course, if you are, you probably, if you're like that, you're not going to recognize it anyways. Most of us who are not like that think we are when we're not. But I'm very self-aware, so I have a tendency to watch my behavior because I don't like hurting people. I love people and I don't want to hurt someone's feelings, so I do my best not to do that. It still happens because I'm human, and some people are just out to be offended. Yeah, that happens. Anyways, see, I don't know if I stayed on topic if I got off topic, but the point is boundaries are important. People pleasing needs to go completely. Like, stop trying to fit into a box that everybody else has put you into. It is time to bust out of that thing. It is time to take the actions that you need to take to accomplish these things that you want to accomplish. It's time to stop making excuses for yourself. Like, do you want it or you don't? It's like one or the other. There is no in between for that. And I have said that quote so many times. You either want it or you don't. You can't have it both ways. And if you want it, then go after it. And the idea that, oh, I can't accomplish it is false, because you can. It might not happen the way you want it to happen. It may not happen as fast as you want it to happen. But if you want it to happen, you will make it happen and you will find a way to do it. And it's a matter of getting rid of all those distractions. It's a matter of getting rid of all of those ideas that you can't do something. It's a matter of getting rid of the people that might be holding you back. It's the idea of getting rid of all of those false beliefs in your mind that are holding you back. There's all these little things, just like be done with it and focus and take action all the time towards what you want, and it will happen. And I can say that because I don't have to be one of those fancy, coaches that you see online that tells you all these things and they're making, millions of dollars by selling you all of these things. You can take all the classes in the world. It doesn't matter. I used to listen to those things all the time. I used to think, oh, if I do this and something will change. And if I go over here and read this and something will change. I learned things, yes, because we always need to learn. But if you're not actually applying what you're reading, you can read everything under the shining sun. There's no magic answer. The answer's here. The answer's within what you decide to do. That's it. That's how simple it is. It has nothing to do with all these other things. And as you take a step forward, the next step will be there. And you'll learn as you go. You'll morph and you'll change and you'll adjust. And the more you do, the more free you start to feel. And you're like, yes. And the more confident that you'll get. And you will have no problem just continuing to move forward with whatever, comes across your path. And sometimes you start in one direction and you realize this is not the way I want to go. So you change it a little bit, or you start in one direction thinking that's the way you're supposed to go, and a whole new, even better pathway opens up. And just kind of taking all of that in and enjoying the things that are coming to you and enjoying the things that are in front of you and enjoying your life where you are. Not everything is good. I understand that. Things hurt sometimes and things just bother you and things from the past bother you. I posted in my stories earlier that said, don't get tripped over what's behind you. Like, if you're constantly looking back, you're just going to fall on everything. So stop looking backwards and look forwards. Nothing back here matters anymore. You can't change it. You can't improve it. You can't go back and fix what someone did. You can't even go back and fix what you did. Unless it was 5 minutes ago and you made somebody mad, then apologize. But like, you can't change those things that happened in the past. All you can do is do better right now and put yourself in a position to do better. Like, I feel sad. I feel so torn for people who hold on to everything in the past, whether it's their own past or someone else's that affected them. And I guess for me, because I was on the other side, and I'm careful because I know how hard that is. And I know how easy it is to get stuck in those things. But being on the other side, like, I just want to drag everybody with me. Like, come on, come forward, come with me, come up. Let's rise up together, because you don't have to stay there anymore. You're free. Like, you're not bound to that anymore. You can walk away. And so many people tie themselves down to those things, and you don't have to. And I'm fully aware of that. Everybody needs support in a different way. I don't make light of that at all. But I do know that every aspect of it still comes down to a decision and a choice. And some people don't know how to choose differently because they don't have the support that they need, and that breaks my heart. And it breaks my heart when people can't and they don't choose differently. And I can't fix it, and I want to fix it because I know how much darkness there is in someone's mind, and I recognize that, and I don't take that lightly. That is a very serious issue. So that I can only hope that some of the things that I say maybe reach somebody that knows that their life is worth living and they're worth being here, and that it just takes one choice each day to just keep looking and keep going and keep stepping forward and asking for help. And there's not enough help out there, sadly enough. And it's a simple matter of, like, absolute deep empathy for anyone going through something like that. And if you feel like you don't know what to do today and you're struggling, please reach out to me. I don't have all the answers, but I can at least help to direct you in the right direction. And at least for you to know that there is somebody here that cares. I care. I really, really do care. And I really do love everybody, no matter the situation that they're in. And I talk about this almost every episode, but it's very important to me because there's nothing worse than feeling like you're alone in everything that you're going through. And I've been there many, many times where I just took that walk all by myself. And a lot of times I didn't realize how much God was actually there with me, but he was, and he's with you too. And some people don't know that he's there, and they don't even know how to reach out to that. And there was my serious side, but I get very passionate about mindset and people who have lost their way like that. And I want to fix everybody, but I know I can't. And that's something that I have to, just do the best I can do with myself and what I have to offer, and pray for the rest. And it's one of those things that I walk around in this world with, that I have to learn to not let my own empathy outrule everything else, because then it holds me back from being a benefit and serving other people. And I have to do it very carefully. And I'm probably going to go ahead and call this an episode. It's been long, and I really hope that something in that jumbled, rambled mess, someone got something out of this. It's been hectic, obviously. It is what it is, and maybe next episode will make more sense and be a little on point. But I truly believe that sometimes whatever words come from me are words that need to be said in the moment, and that the people that will hear it are the ones that need to hear it. So I'm out, and I will be back again next week. And that's a wrap on this episode of Sip by Coffee. If you made it this far, congrats. You have an impressive attention span. If something resonated with you, let us know. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Until next time, keep growing, keep being real, and try not to cause too much chaos, or at least make it entertaining.